Welcome to a conversation that I'm having, quite bizarrely, on Alex's podcast, Who's Flying the Plane, but we're going to put this up on the BBC Upload social media channels as well. So let's have this chat then, shall we, Alex?
Okay, let's go. I'm here with Adam Crowther, who is the presenter of BBC Upload. Good morning.
Good morning.
Upload is a show where you source local talent, people who are musicians or poets or creators in some way, and you give them a chance to showcase their talent to a larger audience.
Yes, absolutely.
So how did you come up with the idea for Upload?
So it came about after a discussion with my boss, and she sort of had this wild idea that we sort of have this uploader whereby people can send stuff to us that we can feature in, because so many people are making and creating stuff that they never really get the opportunity to showcase to anyone or send anywhere or do anything with. So we thought, what an ideal opportunity to get a show that would be a brilliant platform on radio to showcase what people are making, like you say, whether that's poetry or fiction or podcasts like yourself or musicians, whatever they've got, and be a bit of a front door to the BBC, really, so that whoever it is that's making stuff can get their stuff showcased in front of people that normally wouldn't get to hear their stuff, and as well as sort of having the radio show sort of start looking at how we can put that onto social platforms and stuff like that as well. So it sort of came about from a bit of a chat with my boss around that, really, and then the opportunity for the show came up. There was a slot became available on the evenings at Radio Bristol, so yeah, the job became available. I applied for it, rigorous interviews and all that sort of stuff, and got the job. And I'm proud of it. It's brilliant. It's a great show.
But now you've got this show that you're in a good amount of control of. You have quite a lot of say in what goes out. You're going to spend today choosing talent, but at the start of your career you had quite a different job, didn't you?
Yeah, so I left sort of college. I'd done bits of live event presenting. I got sort of, I hate using the word sort of scouted, but in a way it was, I got picked up as a live event presenter by someone who worked within the Arts Council, and we got sort of, me and my friend Lauren, who we presented together with, we got sort of scouted and got asked to present loads of different events and stuff like that, which was great because we got the experience of interviewing and hosting and doing live events where different people, different talents were performing. And I think that's where I got my sort of interest in sort of nurturing new talent, really, is that these people that were performing on a stage in front of an audience that didn't know them, it was an opportunity to show off their talents. And then from there I sort of went and did bits of event hosting for Birmingham City Council and loads of different events that they put on when I was living back up in Birmingham. Went and worked on a holiday park as a holiday park entertainer, and then sort of got my break in radio with my first job working for a company that was called Traffic Link at the time. It's now called INRIX, doing traffic and travel news bulletins for loads of different radio stations all across the country, whether that be BBC, commercial, local and national stations as well, which was my first sort of step into broadcasting, really.
So when you say you were producing events and things like that, what kind of things were you sort of emceeing, as it was?
All sorts of stuff. So I hosted stages at the German market at Christmas time in Birmingham City Centre, whereby there was different talents that would come and perform, and I would be the link in between the talents performing. And that was again a showcase of lots of different talents, whether that be people in bands, sort of solo singers, poetry readings, to colleges that were putting on full-scale productions of Les Mis. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. So those were the sort of events that we did there. And then, of course, went and did the work at a holiday park, which was interesting, sort of singing and dancing and sort of hosting the evening discos and that sort of stuff, which was great fun, but not a forever job for me, I wouldn't have thought.
I was going to say, that's quite a lot of people come out of that job and end up being comedians or something like that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't, were you performing yourself, or were you hosting the shows again?
Bits of both. So bits of hosting, sort of, doing the crazy sort of dance routines, the kids all joined in with, to, hosting kids clubs and, refereeing football matches for teenagers during the day, all that sort of stuff. And it was a real varied sort of 6 months for me doing that job, really. It was great fun. But I think probably just a good excuse to hang out with mates and have a good time and make a fool of yourself.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it sort of gives you that sort of no shame sort of mentality of you don't mind making a fool of yourself.
So that's where you got your confidence to be on live radio, you think?
I don't know whether that's where I got the... I've always had an interest in presenting. from like the early days of watching like CBBC as a kid, and sort of watching presenters like Angelica Bell and Dick and Dom, and sort of all the different presenters that used to host programmes on CBBC, and sort of thinking, do you know what, they have such a good time and they're talking in between stuff, and and it was sort of thing that I'd love to do something like that one day. And then another love of mine was always radio, and I always remember sort of listening to local radio in Birmingham. There's a commercial station called BR&B that's now changed to free radio, and I remember listening to a presenter called Phil Upton on there, and just loving listening to his programme growing up as a kid. It was just sort of one of those things that I always had a bit of a loved listening and having an ear across, because just the intimacy of radio is something that you can't replicate in any other medium.
Yeah, I think it must be interesting as an interviewer on radio as well. You get to interview so many different people and get a taste of so many different careers and sort of worlds. And I was wondering actually if you had anyone that you'd really love to interview, someone you'd really like to have on Upload, so you could really pick their brain.
Oh, it's difficult because my show is all about those sort of undiscovered and untapped talents, really. So I've never really thought too much about who I would love to interview, like big time. I love Jamie Cullum. Jamie Cullum is someone that I have like not an obsession with, because that makes me sound like a weirdo. But Jamie Cullum, as an artist, as a musician, I absolutely love. I think he's brilliant in his sort of experimental nature with music, and particularly with sort of taking jazz as a form that is so old and sort of bringing it to a modern audience. It is something that I absolutely admire. And again, listening to him sort of do his programme on Radio 2, I love listening to it. So I think for me, someone like Jamie Cullum, who's just lived quite an interesting life, and his career in music's quite fascinating, someone like him would be great. There's also a poet in Birmingham, Benjamin Zephaniah. He's just an incredible guy with sort of such a sort of 1 foot in politics, 1 foot in activism, and then another sort of, don't know how, but another foot in poetry, and makes it all work so beautifully. And a real proud Brummie, which I am as well. So he's a character that I've always really admired. So yeah, perhaps those two people would be the sort of the big people. But like I said, the show for me, it's not about me, Upload. It's about the people that we showcase, and every person that we get on to interview is a privilege, from a poet to a writer to a blogger to a podcaster. Speaking to all these different people every day is, for my job, I love. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Great. So what are you planning for the future of Upload? Have you got anything coming soon that's we should watch out for?
Well, Upload's really exciting at the moment because it's a programme idea that started right here at BBC Radio Bristol, and it hadn't existed anywhere else before. We were quite experimental with it, and it's an experiment that has really paid off because we had a sort of, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. If I get into trouble, then
a hot take.
But yeah, we had a meeting with Tony Hall, the Director General of the BBC, and sort of said, look, this is what we've been doing with this new show. What do you think? And he said to us, this is great. Why hasn't this been done everywhere else? Let's make it happen. So I think the plan is that we sort of roll out versions of Upload across all of local radio in the BBC, and they all do their own version of it, which would be exciting because it gives every town and city across England the chance to showcase their local talent. And the rollout as well, hopefully we'll look at how we can implement that with sort of social media channels and stuff too. So if you are a vlogger, getting your work showcased on a BBC sort of social platform sometimes could be seen as a bit of a pinnacle, like, oh my god, that's brilliant, we've sort of done what we wanted to do. So yeah, so Upload, really excited that it's going to be sort of the format that we sort of developed and as like a little seed here in Bristol is sort of growing and becoming the lovely flower that we intended it to be.
Yeah. I think it's taken on really well already. Yeah. Because I interviewed Tit for Tat, the girls who do the women-focused radio show. A couple of weeks after that, you got in touch with them, and then you had them actually on your show live, and they've gone from strength to strength. Their audience has grown a lot. They're making like merch and stuff like now, so you might recognise a few Tit for Tat t-shirts around town and things like that. And it's just because of Upload that gave them a little boost. And it's already paying off. So I think it's a really exciting thing to watch.
That's what I love, is seeing the development of people that come on the programme and sort of get in touch after and say, thank you so much for giving us that platform, because we've seen an increase in our music streams on Spotify since we came on the radio. We've seen the increase in followers on our Instagram and on our Facebook and our Twitter feeds because we came on and spoke about our music all week, or you featured my poem and now other people are commissioning me to do poetry work. That's what I love, is that sort of feedback that we get from people, is that when people say thanks so much for featuring us because we've seen an increase. And we've featured your podcast, Alex, as well. We've featured this podcast on the show. I know this is sort of the interviewee turning it back on the interviewer, but did you see it make a difference when you...
Yeah, I did, and I think it was really exciting as well to be able to share the BBC upload picture and say, right, this is, I've been working on this for a while and this is some sort of recognition, and it's being played to a wider audience, and I've been able to tell people that I've been played on the BBC, which is exciting. And I get, I could see my analytics and I see a few numbers go up around the time that was on, and it's difficult because podcasts is something that anyone could do, and if you've got something you want to get out there, it's difficult to stand out, and because it's a medium that's it's free, so you're relying on quality of it rather than marketing and that kind of thing. So the fact that I could send it into you and it's about Bristol people and the people who listen to it, it's targeted straight at people who would be interested in it, I think it's definitely helped me to reach a wider audience.
And that's what it's all about for me. The show Upload, it's great to feature talents no matter what they are, to audiences that perhaps wouldn't have ever discovered your podcast or discovered my house band of the week or the local poet or writer that I feature their work on, and them then getting back in touch. That sort of moment for me is lovely, sort of, because people do see it as like a bit of a stamp of approval of my work is good enough to be on the BBC. That's great, which I love. It's brilliant. It's an honour to be able to do that.
I think it's really nice as well, because I can also use that approval to encourage guests who may be a bit reluctant to be interviewed. I can say, this is my podcast and I've been played on the BBC, and they're like, oh right, so this guy's taking it seriously, it's not just some like little project. And I think that's something that's really nice as well, to use the accolade there. Good. So it's a very competitive field, getting involved with radio or most media jobs. Really, you've really got to stand out. And I was just wondering if you had any advice for someone. So
I always remember when I was sort of half in the industry anyway. I was quite landed on my feet really when I got my job at a traffic link at INRIX doing all those traffic and travel news bulletins. I sort of by chance saw a tweet that had mentioned jobs going at this this team that provide traffic and travel news bulletins, and I thought, oh, this is great, let me give this a go. Knocked up a demo using GarageBand on my MacBook, made all these sort of weird fake jingles for a radio station, funnily enough, that I'd made up in my head called Radio X, which now is a thing, so I'm onto a winner there already. I think
right? You've got a copyright claim there.
Exactly. Sorry Chris Moyles, over here first. But basically I sort of made all these jingles and stuff and sort of packaged up this travel bulletin that I sort of mocked up and faked, sent it into as part of the job application, filled in the form and all that sort of stuff, and got called to an interview. Got asked a bit about my sort of road and travel knowledge, obviously, and a bit about my sort of career history and sort of what sort of person I was and all that sort of usual stuff. And then the next day they phoned back and offered me this job doing the travel news stuff, and I was like, yeah, of course I'll take it. It's brilliant. Yeah. And then I always remember starting on the first day and doing my first ever bulletin, and being terrified about doing my first live bulletin, and it was so early in the morning that no one would have heard it really, but it was brilliant, and that sort of buzz of doing my first broadcast was like, oh, that's it, brilliant, done. And I'll never forget that. So that, my first bit of advice I guess from that would be, don't be afraid to sort of just message people and apply for jobs, even if you haven't got experience in radio, which I hadn't. I'd had sort of bits of live event presenting experience, but never had any sort of radio experience. It's just apply for it, you never know. And then from there I wanted to get a bit more in the industry, and sort of because I'd sort of was known as a voice on local radio stations, whether that be commercial stations or the BBC, I started pestering producers and bosses and editors at local radio stations to come and do some work and freelance work. I did like an internship at a station called Touch FM in Coventry, and produced a 24-hour broadcast for them as part of like this sort of internship, if you like. And I was sort of a voice on the station already, so got involved with that, and that was brilliant, but didn't get paid for it, but that's fine. It was a great experience for me. And then I started pestering the assistant editor, the sort of second in command at BBC WM, the local radio station for Birmingham and the West Midlands. And I remember emailing her, this lady called Sharon, and saying, "Hi Sharon, you might know me. I do your travel bulletins. Wondered if I could come in and have a coffee about what I could do for the radio station, and whether I could come and get some work experience or come and sort of do some shadowing." And I went in for a coffee with her at BBC Birmingham, and we sat down right opposite each other, and she sort of said, "Oh, if we asked you to do this, how would you feel about answering the phones?" And I don't know about that. I've never really answered the phones in a radio station before. And okay, well, how would you feel about perhaps sort of working and helping to produce a program and sort of setting up guests and that sort of stuff? And I thought, oh yeah, I'm not really sure about that really. Mm-hmm. And okay, well, how about if we got you going out with a sort of recorder and asking sort of Vox questions on the street of like whatever the news story is that day, to be a bit of a reporter? And I'm not really sure about that really. Mm-hmm. I just had no self-belief in what I could do. And at the end of the coffee, Sharon said, "Well, I've asked you all these questions about how you'd feel about doing all these things, and they're all things that I know you can do because I've already looked you up and sort of seen your experience, and you can do all of this stuff. You can speak to people on the phone because you do when people call in travel news. You can set up guests because you did it when you did that 24-hour broadcast for Touch FM. You can go and Vox people because you speak on the radio like all day, every day for your job." So, she'd already done a bit of research on me, and she said, "You can do all that stuff, so let's have this conversation again, and come back and let's see how we can get you involved." And sort of having that bit of confidence sort of shaken up inside me, I think. And going, right, you just believe in yourself, sell yourself. So that'd be sort of advice number 2, is pester people to go and meet them for a coffee, and always offer to buy it because it goes a long way with busy journalists and bosses buying them a coffee. And then number 3 is actually have faith in what you do. So, number 1, don't be afraid to apply for jobs even if you don't think you've got the experience. Number 2 is pester people in a nice way, and number 3 would be actually believe in the skills that you've got and sell yourself as a product, as something that will be useful to the radio station, or the TV station, or whatever it is, the TV program, whatever, because the chances are that if you sell yourself, there's going to be some sort of vacancy that you can help fill.
Great. So I suppose, you got the lady there who showed the bit of confidence in you, and that just sets you off in the right way, and
absolutely,
you start to believe in yourself, and things go from there.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for that chat with Sharon, I might not be sat here today.
That's funny.
So and it's that sort of butterfly effect. If that didn't happen then, where would I be now?
If someone had something they wanted to get on BBC Upload, how would they go about that?
So our uploader is on our website. It's really simple. It's just bbc.co.uk/upload. There's an icon there that says upload your content. If you click on that, and you can send in files via the website. It's really simple. So record yourself, film yourself, upload your pictures, do all that sort of stuff via that website. It really is that simple. So if you are a podcaster, send us your audio. If you are a musician, you've probably already got your tracks recorded somehow, whether that is sort of stuff that you've recorded in a studio professionally, or sort of bedroom recordings, or whatever, garage band sort of stuff. That's absolutely fine. Whatever you've got, send it in. If you're a poet and you want to record yourself, maybe you've not got sort of recording equipment like you've got here with like mics and stuff, but you might, everyone's got a voice recorder app on their smartphone or on their tablet. Start recording yourself there, because we've played so much stuff on Upload that's been recorded on mobile phones, because the quality you can get out of it is incredible now. So why not just give it a go, and don't worry about any sort of fancy production or editing. We'll do all that for you. Just have a go, record it, send it in. And we listen to absolutely everything that gets sent in. That's the one guarantee we give, is that we will listen to absolutely everything and give everything the consideration it deserves. Because
you never know what you're going to miss.
No, exactly. Yeah. If I just don't listen to one bit of audio, that could be the gem. That could be the brilliant story, and or the brilliant sort of track that could be the next big thing, or and that's what I sort of love. Coming into work every day and listening to the Uploader, it is like a sort of Pandora's box. We open it up, and what's going to be inside, you never know. It could be a brilliant poem. So, sometimes we do get trash sent in. I'm not going to, we do, because it's an open platform. Anyone can send anything in. But the guarantee that we do give is that we'll give everything a listen.
Is there anything you feel that you're not getting enough of?
Or do you know what? I would love some slam poetry, sort of really sort of gritty, meaningful, punchy poetry. Because we get all the really nice poetry sent in, because those sort of people are quite quite open to sharing their poems, because they're usually quite lovely and flowery and nice. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we would love some sort of real gritty slam poetry. And it's sort of always been a bit of a passion of mine is watching those sort of slam poets on sort of YouTube and stuff, and thinking, oh, do you know what, I'd love that, it's such a brilliant talent. And I'd love to feature more of that sort of stuff. And what I love about sort of that sort of street and slam poetry is that quite often it's about something, and it's something that's really pertinent and meaningful and quite raw quite a lot of the time. And so I'd love a bit more of that, really.
Great.
That's the one thing I don't think we get enough of.
There's a shout out for that then. So anyone slam poets listening, make sure they get on BBC Upload. All right, thanks a lot for talking to me, Adam.
Not a problem.
And good luck with the future of Upload.
No, and thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Cheers.